Well, hey there. You've stumbled upon the intersection of internet quandaries and psychological insight. Welcome to Veritas Views on AITA, where the quirks of the internet meet the expertise of Veritas Psychology Partners.
Potentially unpopular opinion here, Gayle.
Yes, Dan.
It's corn season here in Minnesota. There's no need to boil that shit. There's no need to put any butter. Just get a fresh ear of corn. Here's the unpopular part. Microwave it for 2 minutes. Let it steam in there.
My mom taught me that trick.
You do the same thing.
I do.
And just let it sit on the counter and then just take the stuff and just eat it.
Yep. Absolutely. It's so sweet. Yeah. It's so perfect this time of year.
Why do you need to mess with stuff?
We don't. Honestly, we got a local farmer. I hit him up for some corn. He gives me extra just in case there's a bad ear in there.
I just want
a fridge full of this stuff.
I just want to apologize to all of our listeners. I was hoping to start out with a bit of a disagreement here, and we started out with total agreement. Michael, do you have something that we might be able to disagree about today?
Well, we will, but I want to weigh in on the corn thing. I am pro butter and pro salt, and I'm sure the corn is fine without it, but I see no reason to waste my time with something that could be improved. So,
all right. Well, you know what? I will respectfully disagree with you, but only when the corn is perfectly fresh.
Okay, I can agree on that.
And no one's the asshole for saying that because, we get to choose our corn.
Yeah.
Michelin star winning, we are not.
No.
But what I will tell you is wrong is this idea of a corn boil where you boil that. What the? No.
Don't ruin it. Don't ruin it.
That's just mean. It's rude to the corn.
What do you have for us, Michael?
Yeah, well, I've gone out and I found something on the internet, of course, to throw your way to see what you guys make of it. I've gone through and I've de-identified the post a little bit to be a little more discreet. And also, if you're new, stick around through the credits. We always have some kind of bonus conversation. But Dan nor Gayle know what I'm going to throw their way. This isn't just a bit. I swear I really don't tell them, and it's kind of fun to see their reactions. So anyway, today's post is, am I the asshole for wanting to fire a high-performing employee just because of their bad attitude?
Yes. No, absolutely not. No. Absolutely not. Fire them.
Attitude is everything. I was talking to a business owner, actually, who's also my neighbor. And we were just talking last night about how she had to let go of an employee that was probably doing a just fine job and had good qualifications for the position and totally lacked the necessary people skills.
Yeah. I think
that's it.
I think a negative attitude in a workplace can really poison the place, and I've certainly seen that as well. People who are super hard workers and really hammering away, but bring down the rest of the office. That interferes. However,
it's culture for a reason, but we should probably hear the rest of the.
Yes, I was just going to say there's probably more to this.
Probably, but we could riff on this part all day.
We could.
All right, Michael, give us a back pattern, please.
So here's the rest. For several people asked male or female in this situation. I don't know that it really matters, and they never specified. So it just says, I have a direct report who's a textbook high performer, technically strong, meets deadlines, takes initiatives. But their attitude is awful. They're consistently condescending in meetings to others, dismissive of teammates, and roll their eyes when others speak. They don't do this in front of me or where it's visible to me, but I hear about it from everyone. It's starting to affect team morale, and I've had multiple conversations with them about tone, professionalism, and how their behavior impacts the group. I've tried to handle it constructively, coach them, involved HR, and even documented behavior patterns. They nod, agree to improve, then go back to acting like they're smarter than everyone else. It's frustrating because while their work is great, the interpersonal friction is eroding team cohesion. Now, I'm seriously considering letting them go, but I know that firing a high output employee might raise questions. And I don't want to look like I can't manage difficult people. And I also know higher ups will be disappointed in potentially a loss of income. I'm stuck between preserving team health and losing someone who objectively delivers. So am I the asshole for considering firing them for not poor for performance, but for consistently poor attitude?
No. And I think there are two things that are really important here. One is you have to think about your team health. It's essential because you may have one high performer or you could have 20 high performers. if you have good team culture, you can bring everyone up to the level you need. You have one bad attitude, and suddenly no one is performing. And yes, you might get some eyeballs or eyebrows for
Yeah.
for firing your high performer. But when you look at the bigger picture, you can clearly see that you are suppressing the performance of your overall team.
Yeah.
Companies often forget to look down the road in this really proactive way. They tend to be reactive, and holding on to this high performer is going to be a reactive approach, not a proactive approach.
Yeah, I think if we were looking at sports, there are many great examples, and honestly, I can't come up with any of them right now, but we'll figure that out at some point. But like many examples of teams that didn't necessarily have the best players in the league or the top of the line players, but the team just gelled
Yeah.
in a way that made magic happen on the field or the court or wherever we're talking about. And that's not an uncommon thing to see teams or teams with phenomenal players that because the egos were wrong or the chemistry was wrong, this team full of great players just lost a lot of games.
Yeah.
And so I have no problem with firing this person in this particular situation and
I think
defending
you
that.
are sort of referring to the 1980 US hockey team.
That may be one. I was thinking about. I grew up in the DC metro area, and after their last owner, whose name I won't even mention out loud, um, purchased the team back when they were unfortunately called the Redskins. He paid a bunch of money for a bunch of really top-notch players with no thought of how the team would gel, and never managed to put a good team on the field.
Yeah.
Never managed to win games, even though you would think on paper, here's a phenomenal team. They just couldn't work together. And I think your example is a great one. The hockey team wasn't the best players in the world, but they played well together. And that
And I
makes all
think
the
there's
difference.
there, in the boardroom, it makes a lot of sense when you are in the process. And Dan, you've been in these kinds of roles and you've hired folks and
Yeah.
brought people on into organizations, and you
Most
always
I don't regret.
most of them, right?
President company accepted. No. Wait,
So full
no, that's the other way
disclosure, I've
around.
once been hired by Dan Kessler as an employee, and now we're partners. So that worked out okay. But when I remember that process, right? We spoke, we had our first sit down, and then, we went into more of a formal interview, but you brought me to meet the rest of the team. And quite
Mhm.
frankly, if they would have been I don't think I would have been brought on, even though they weren't going to be directly interacting with me in the same role on a daily basis. It was about the fit of that particular
Yeah.
location and making sure that vibe worked. And I remember how at the time that location was really committed to that vibe.
Mhm.
We have to work together, and there has to be a synergy. And when you do that, you really make sure that your employees are not going to be, or at least less likely, struggling with burnout, right? They're looking forward to coming to work. They solve problems together instead of creating avoidance. I think the poor OP here is really internalized their ability to manage a difficult person. What they need to be doing is trying to find a way either to get this high performer to buy into the idea that they don't need to be the Jamie Tart here.
Yeah,
Jamie did better when he softened and became a part of the team,
exactly.
right? And
No,
if you can't
that
get
was
that
Ted
shift,
Lasso did a great job with this exact concept.
it was beautifully done.
Yeah.
And they absolutely show the star player who is a failure until he can really lean into the team dynamic. And if you can't, there's onus on the employee to be open to, I don't need to be the star player wearing the captain's armband here. What I need to do is play with my team and lift everyone up. When we lift everyone up, we all do
Yeah.
better. We all
And
become winners.
I don't remember which person I heard this from. I'd like to say it's a psychologist, but I don't know.
Sure.
This concept of like one cockroach in a bowl of cherries ruins the entire bowl of cherries. Now, one cherry in a bowl of cockroaches does nothing to improve that bowl of cockroaches at all. So that star doesn't fix things
Yes.
for a company, but that one poisonous, unpleasant element can ruin an entire team. And I've always loved that image of, I don't love the image because I just literally had a bowl of cherries. Because in addition to being corn season, it's also cherry season right now when we're recording this. Yeah, I mean, you have to really keep that idea in mind that one cockroach in a bowl of cherries ruins the entire bowl of cherries.
I got to tell you, there's one flaw with that, which is cockroaches would never stay in a single bowl. Not for long. They'd scatter.
Oh, don't mess with my analogy or whoever's analogy I stole. That, by the way, was someone else's. I don't know where I got it from.
Oh,
Michael, I think what you are
when you do that.
Michael, do you know who you have you have a recollection of that, or do you looked it up?
That brought such a visceral reaction in me. I had to find out where it came from. So it's a guy named Paul Rozin, Rozin, and apparently he's an expert on disgust. So that makes sense.
He nails it right there.
I'll also
Paul
add team-wise. I immediately thought of the '90s Pistons, who were one of the teams that defeated the Bulls during their run with Jordan. Jordan, being the one with the star player surrounded by a strong supporting cast, but the Pistons were kind of a hodgepodge, ramshackle team put together of solidly good players that gelled well. So
they gelled. Anyway. So we're like 100%. It sounds like on team fire the guy, and you're not the asshole for wanting to. Now I do get where OP is coming from, like that there may be some heat to be taken. I often ask myself the question, if I have to deal with upper management or an ethical question or the board of psychology or whatever, which position would I rather defend? Would I rather have to defend the position of, I kept this guy on even though he screwed with my entire team because he's a high performer, or would I rather defend, I let him go because even though he's a high performer, he completely messed up the entire team and made it an unpleasant place to work and we were going to go down the tubes? I would rather defend the latter. And I will have to defend one of them at some point. I'd rather defend the latter now than the former down the road.
Right. And in the case where you keep that high performer on, you probably see turnover in the rest of your team, which is going to raise eyebrows.
No, the problem is that OP, if they left that bad apple there, if they left the cockroach in the bowl, they don't have to deal with it today. They can kind of kick the can down the road a little bit.
Yeah.
It'll be a bigger issue down the road, but they're better off dealing with it today than waiting, I think.
Absolutely. And it sounds like they have been dealing with it. They have been trying to coach. They have brought in, it sounds like HR, like they've done the things that we would expect that they have done. We are really, simply speaking, from the broader now, I've tried everything in my arsenal to try to mitigate the situation. I can't. We need to now make a more drastic decision. But I think that I want to point out something else that OP is doing. OP is reviewing the decision that they've made, right? You're reflecting back on, how is my behavior? Have I done everything? Is there anything else I can do? Which inherently, instead of making you a bad manager for not changing the behavior of someone on your team, really opens this up for support around, you're a good manager, because good managers review their decisions and ask themselves, one more time, is there anything else I can do? And they continue to work over the problem instead of making a snap decision and then just being done with it. So I really do think OP has taken all of the right steps. There are just sometimes things that are outside of our control.
Yeah. The only risk OP might be taking here, by the way, I totally agree with you, or 98% agree with you, is thinking too much. We can, like, we talk a lot of in thinking about this sort of business situation. Are we we worry about underthinking it, making snap decisions, or overthinking that analysis paralysis, and finding that place where you're being thoughtful, you're stopping and thinking, you're giving a pause, you're working it through in your head. And then when they come to the conclusion, like, I'm really hoping that when we pitch this back to Michael, he's going to be like, oh yeah, fired the guy, and I talked to the VP of whatever, and they were like, yeah, good call, dude. Or I'm using the term dude generically for all. I have found this, by the way, side note, talking to my teenagers, like, the term dude, bro, and girl are not gendered anymore.
Okay.
Bruh refers to either gender. Girl as an exclamation from a teenager is not a gendered term.
Not gendered anymore.
It's not really gendered.
It's funny because I've heard that word come out of my mouth, oddly enough, because I have teenagers, I suppose, and not always with a girl. So I'm glad to hear that. Maybe I was.
Yeah, I was all complimented. My daughter said to me, "Girl," about something, and I went, "Oh, she's good." And I told a younger person about this, and they're like, "Yeah, it wasn't anything special that she saw. No, they were she's just telling
you, you're fire.
It's become non-gendered anyway." Michael.
Well, wait.
Oh, no, you got more. Sorry, I digressed.
I actually have a question about what you were saying earlier. So if this person were in your office, so you've got this executive, they say, Dr. Kessler, I'm really struggling with this, and I'm not sure. I've given it a lot of thought. I think this is the right course of action, but I've really been, kind of stuck on it for some amount of time. Where do you help them understand that line between appropriate analysis and leaning toward that paralysis? And then what would you talk to them about in terms of getting unstuck in that process?
Yeah, I do like the what I mentioned earlier, the which situation would I rather defend? But part of the question I'd have is there, you're thinking about this, but are you gathering new information now, or are you just going over in your head old information? One phenomenon here from the test taking world is you don't change your answer unless you know that the new answer is correct. And sometimes we can sort of talk ourselves into or talk ourselves out of, like there comes a point where additional thinking can lead to a poor decision. So once you've thought it through, now it's time to make a decision if there's no other additional information to be gathered here. Now, OP has taken the extra step of asking the internet if they have an opinion, which by itself leans into the idea that maybe there's some analysis process going on. It's like, I'm uncertain of myself. No, I'm not dissing OP at all, by the way. Not an asshole.
You said you agreed with me 98%, and I was like, where is that 2%? I found it.
Yeah. And they're like, they know, I think that they know the right decision. Here's what I think is happening here. I'm totally projecting, by the way. I think they know the correct decision is to let the person go, and they're afraid of the heat they might feel. It's that, we do this all the time. We see this in relationships. We see this in the workplace. We know the right choice, but the right choice in the moment kind of sucks.
Yeah. I often tell people, choose your hard.
Right, exactly. So this is a situation where OP knows the right decision. They have no question in their mind what the right decision is. And they've done everything they can, but in this particular moment, they're hesitating. I think part of the reason they're hesitating, they don't want to get it wrong. Firing someone's a big deal. But part of the reason is they don't want to, is the heat's going to come on them. Yeah. And if they just wait, it won't be as bad. But I think that's where they're getting a little bit caught in that analysis paralysis. And why they're reaching out to us and giving us this wonderful content that Michael has found to talk about.
I will just really kind of throw in there. I asked you what you would do, and I think I might even just give them my little talk on what if, because what if is a really terrifying thing, right? What if I get in trouble for firing this person? What if I can't get my team to produce like, they were when this person was around, et cetera, et cetera. And so for me, I would talk about the power that the fearfulness that those words bring, and let's think it through its logical conclusion. Let's play it out. Let's think about how this could go, and even its worst case scenario. And a lot of times it sheds light on the fact that, that might be unfortunate, but it really isn't going to be the end of the world. It is going to be the end of this chapter of something. And so maybe we can, increase our comfort with, by decreasing the sort of catastrophizing sort of nature of what's creating that paralysis.
Totally.
All right, Michael, what did the internet say?
Well, the internet is definitely in line with you. They brought up some interesting things, though, which is really actually why this one. No, I wouldn't say that.
I'm always interested in what we missed.
Well, okay, so the overwhelming sentiment is that they are not the asshole. That it's hard to part with a high performer. Toxic behavior, affects the wider team. They didn't use the cockroach and cherries analogy, although I'm totally going to use that again. But they certainly talked about how one brilliant jerk spoils the rest of the things. There were a few people who weighed in and said, everyone sucks here. And in that, those people argued that the original poster really has let this go on too long. Like, yes, you're trying to do all the right things, but you're clearly dragging your feet, and your team is learning how you handle this thing that is clearly upsetting them. They come back and they tell you about this problem, and it's going on too long. So everyone sucks here. You should have acted sooner.
So we have a long established policy here at Veritas Views that to be an asshole, you have to have mens rea, and we've talked about this idea before. You have to have that guilty mind. You have to have some intent to be an asshole. And while I think OP may have let this gone on too far, we literally cannot call them an asshole under our previous precedent.
Well, and I think this commenter is saying that the OP sucks. And I'm just parsing the detail a little bit here, and I would
a little
agree
coaching.
with you.
We'll give them a little coaching.
Sure. I don't think that they suck either. I think, especially depending on how new this leader is, they're in a really difficult position. And I would hope that they have maybe an in-house or a mentor of some sort where they can talk this through. This is really common in the business world, where you pair up with someone that you admire and that has some bandwidth, and they give you some of this kind of support, kind of like we receive consultation from each other on an ongoing basis, just in the psychology world. And you really can go to anyone for that. And when you find someone that really feels like the right fit for you, that person is a really valuable consultant.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, Michael, what else did the internet have to say?
That's okay. Then a lot of the conversation, because it felt pretty black and white to them, they went to, what do you do with them? And so some people said, okay, you set a timeline. You say, we're giving you 7 days or whatever, whatever the timeline is, and you need to do that or we part ways. And other ones, and this was a new thing that I had never heard of before, which is quiet firing. Do either of you know what that is?
Yeah.
It's oh gosh, what is it? I think it's actually I could be totally wrong here, by the way, because I read this on the internet a while back, but they do this I think is more common in Japan, where I believe they call these folks window sitters, or Michael, you'll correct me on, but basically you give the person nothing to do.
Yeah.
And like, you don't make their life miserable, you just don't give them any actual work to do, and they end up just like, is that what the quiet firing is? Am I off base here?
Yeah.
That's my understanding of it as well. But that is just, that's really passive aggressive.
So
here in Minnesota.
People basically said, like, if you don't want the confrontation of firing somebody, which can be hard and difficult and whatever, then what you do is you decrease their workload, you decrease their hours, you let them kind of sit there and stew, and they'll find another place where they can be more high productive. Which I was like, that seems so passive. That is so bizarre.
No, I would argue that's poor. That's poor management.
It's not management.
And you get the rest of the team's can be saying, because the team knows who's not working, and they can be looking around going, I'm busting my butt, and this guy's sitting around, playing solitaire on his computer and surfing, on his phone, and why that I think is going to harm the team as well. I'm not a fan. Fire the guy.
No, and it has other outcomes, right? A lot of times with firing, there may be some packages that go with that, or the opportunity to access unemployment benefits or whatever. And so that just feels like a dick move to quiet fire someone so that you don't have to deal with those aspects of it's terminating someone's employment. I think that's
I was just shocked by how the internet was so clearly like, you need to fire this guy. And then they're like, whoa, maybe you can just kind of like let him peter out. I was like, this is weird that you both are saying the same thing here. But then there was also another side conversation about startups and how a lot of times they unintentionally breed this kind of high performing, allow the jerk to behave the way they are because they bring in stuff and whatever. And how it's particularly bad there. So I don't know, but
it's also why so many startups fail. I mean, I don't know what the percentage is. I could make it up, but I won't. Right? But what's the percentage? What's the number of startups that fail within the first, what, 1 or 2 years? And it's astronomical. That's why
I don't
it's
know.
so unstable to work in a startup situation. I'm not saying don't work in a startup situation, but if you are really breeding your culture in that way, you're setting yourself up for that kind of failure.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, you guys got it right. I mean, I agree.
Well, I don't know that I'm not sure that agreeing with the internet means we got it right, Michael.
Well, and we will always caveat the heck out of this, which is to say, these are the facts as they have been presented to
Oh,
us.
of course.
And,
Yes.
we don't actually know how all of this went down or what the behavior was or any of those things.
Mhm.
As the facts were described, this is our
Yeah.
rendering.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
by the way, I'm not even going to call the problematic employee an asshole because again, mens rea, I mean, maybe they suck,
Mm,
but I'm not even going to
if,
go asshole.
as
We
written,
don't have enough
as
information.
as written, persons being condescending to coworkers and rolling their eyes in meetings, you're an
Oh
asshole.
yeah. I
You're
forgot about that
if you're
part.
being condescending to your
All right.
coworkers, if you're rolling your
I
eyes
take
when
it
people are
back.
talking, you're being an asshole. Honestly, even when like because there's an important team, like you don't if someone is saying something like really dumb in a meeting, it's not always like there's ways of addressing that, but rolling one's eyes in a meeting does not address that in a productive manner. Um,
Okay, I guess you're right.
for those listening without video, Gail just rolled the shit out of her eyes.
I tried to do my best impression of a 13-year-old girl.
You nailed it. Nailed it.
All right. Well, thank you both for another riveting glimpse into the collective conscious of the internet forums and, the business world, I suppose. Remember, morality is often shades of gray and not just fire them or not fire them.
I just want to give a shout out and a reminder to everyone. Culture at work matters so much,
Hmm,
and it needs to be built with intention and maintained with integrity.
correct. 100%.
Yeah, please follow and share Veritas views on any of the podcast platforms with your neighbors and friends. And as always, stick around through the credits for the bonus conversation about, well, whatever happens to be on their minds today.
You can follow Dr. Dan Kessler at Dr. Dan Kessler and Dr. Gayle MacBride at Dr. G. MacBride. Oh, and you can find them both at veritaspp.com. Credits. Tickling the Ivories, Matthew Reddington. Art, production, and design, bringing this show together with flair and finesse, Michelle Love. Recording and editing, turning chaos into something worth sharing, Michael MacBride. Intro, outro, I'm Kelly Buttrick, a VO talent who just happens to be Dr. MacBride's cousin. Cats, CJ, Linus, Sadie, and Griffin. Hosting by whomever lost the coin flip. Interruptions by all their children. The content of this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Listening to this podcast does not constitute a therapist-client relationship. If you believe you may be experiencing a mental health issue, please seek the assistance of a qualified mental health professional. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis, you can call or text 988 from anywhere in the U.S. to be connected to Crisis Mental Health Services.
Thanks for listening. As promised, here's that bonus conversation.
Dan, a lot of times we talk about research, and I know you're kind of a research nerd.
Yes.
Data wonk, I think you've called yourself at
A bit
different
of a
times.
data wonk, yeah.
And you and I, as psychologists, also know and are kind of, I think, following this idea around blue zones. How do you optimize your health for longevity? We do a lot of work in this space with high performers and high achievers who are not just looking to excel and be the star and point person on their team, but also in life and really
Yeah.
live that healthy quality of life. And I was wondering if you saw the recent research come out that is even talking more specifically about those things that we know you can do. But the paper came out and really provided some structure and compared individuals who are kind of doing it willy-nilly free form on their own versus following a structure. Did you see this sort of
You know,
8-week kind of
I,
brain
I
health
didn't.
plan?
I didn't, but I'm going to guess.
Yeah,
I've seen
please.
other research on this, and I've had personal experience with this, and so I'll give you my personal experience. I had a weight loss journey a number of years ago. I spent the first 20 years of adulthood obese, and the second 20 years relatively non-obese. What I discovered is that if I wrote down everything I ate, I lost weight. And if I didn't write it down, but didn't change anything at all, or so I thought, about my eating, I didn't lose weight. There's something magical, and I've seen this over and over again with people who are trying, with others who are trying to do an exercise routine, trying to learn a language, trying to lose weight, trying to make some major change, that the actual logging of the thing, the observation of the thing changes our behavior such that it gets done. So I firmly believe that doing something in a practiced way, in a planful way, in a organized, systemic way is going to make much better change. Now, I've really put it out there, Gayle.
You have.
Am I dead ass wrong?
Oh, no, not at all. Actually, that brings us back to, really, really basic psychology that talks about, if you study it, it changes. The moment you start writing it down and collecting data about it, it's going to change, right? So that makes a lot of sense. This wasn't quite that program, so I think you're right, Dan. I do. I think with that, though, it's more than eating, right? We know that physical activity is important, and really holding people to that standard of 150 minutes a week of moderate to vigorous exercise, getting that heart rate up, getting sweaty, of course, eating the right kinds of foods. And right now we keep coming around to Mediterranean diet and anti-inflammatory kinds of food. So really high impact, high nutrition. This particular program actually included a cognitive component, making sure that you are increasing your brain flexibility. So learning a language, working on puzzles, but also being social, interacting with others is also a human puzzle, right? It's something that you do and is stimulating to your brain. Monitoring your blood pressure, your weight, just again, writing those things down, tracking them over time, making sure that you have accountability and support. So that social component, maybe also extending to doing this with someone, or at least reporting out and checking in about how you're doing, starts to create a really robust platform. But doing this in a really structured, strategic way has better long-term benefits than just, throwing darts at a dartboard around all of this. And so creating that structured plan and carrying that over time is going to get you better results than just doing a few of these things because you think you're doing them. I think that's probably the problem. You think you're doing them. You might even report to someone else that you're doing them, and there may be holes. This is why in a sleep diary, if we ask for information and we're treating someone's insomnia, write it down every day, because in 2 days you're going to forget. You won't actually know. So anyway, I think this extends beyond just sleep. It extends into our health and longevity. So there you go.
Yeah. Excellent. Cool. Well, thanks you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks everyone for tuning in next week for a whole nother Am I the Asshole debate.
We love hearing from you, so please review us on Apple, Spotify, or, well, wherever you're listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please review, like, and follow. Also, give it a share. This helps us reach more listeners.